Tonight, investigations continue into a fire that destroyed a house near Port Lincoln overnight. And Broken Hill's Mayor calls for South Australia's borders to be reopened to the city.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. A house has been destroyed by fire on the outskirts of Port Lincoln overnight, with fire crews from Adelaide investigating. Witnesses say they were fearful the blaze would spread to nearby properties.
Sparks of electricity zap into the air as an out-of-control fire erupts on the outskirts of Port Lincoln, the wailing of sirens waking residents up.
I looked and there's very red smoke. Flames, like whirlwinds of flames almost coming out of the house.
The blaze ignited just after 6:30 last night. Fire crews confronted with dangling power lines and a collapsing roof.
We commenced defensive firefighting, but unfortunately, due to the extent of fire, there was considerable damage to the property.
15-year-old CFS cadet Jay Ruffby received an alert on his pager. Worried for a friend who lives right next door to the fire, he rushed down to warn him.
Some police got a hold of me and they managed to evacuate us out.
When I arrived, it was bigger than I expected it to be, and kind of hoped everyone was okay.
Jay's mate's family were evacuated. Thankfully, the house was empty, but the resident returned to find her rental property destroyed. Fire Corps investigators spent several hours here examining the scene this afternoon as they try and piece together what caused this tragedy. The estimated damage bill is expected to reach $400,000. The owner is insured. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Broken Hill's mayor says she was left angry upon hearing South Australia was partially opening its borders this week. Despite being 50 kilometres away, Silver City locals can still only cross for essential reasons.
Open to the Northern Territory, WA and Tasmania, but Broken Hill residents remain persona non grata in South Australia despite living just 50 k's from the border.
I was really angry that this Premier of South Australia has no respect for the community, the border town of Broken Hill. Now, we have an alliance with South Australia.
The Mayor reigniting calls for the city's residents to be exempt from their quarantine laws. She says the Silver City has a strong connection with the state and its capital.
Our health is reliant on South Australia, on Adelaide. Critical health go to South Australia to have babies. Our work is connected, our education is connected.
While essential health exemptions can be given to locals, stories are emerging of mixed messages. One local couple who did not wish to appear on camera told 7 Spencer Golf News they were turned back at the Oodlawira checkpoint because their medical reason wasn't urgent enough.
Time to wake up and look at the reality and understand that Broken Hill is not a town in the middle of New South Wales. It is a town that has always related to South Australia.
In a statement, SA Police say a medical appointment may not be considered urgent by officers, and Broken Hill residents wanting to enter the state are judged on a case-by-case basis. The government plans to open its borders to New South Wales next month. Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
3 youths have been arrested after allegedly stealing a car in Whyalla last night. Just before 7, a car was reported stolen from a local driveway. Police then received information later that night it was being tracked on the Air Highway. It eventually stopped after colliding with a kangaroo on the Augusta Highway. 3 teenagers aged between 14 and 17 from Whyalla have been charged with illegal use of a motor vehicle. SA Health is reminding locals to keep up good hygiene practices after a man testing positive to coronavirus flew into South Australia yesterday. The 35-year-old man, returning from Pakistan, was flying via Melbourne, where he was first diagnosed. Officials say he's a low-risk case. SA Health says it's a timely reminder for residents to not become complacent. Gas cylinders without warning labels could soon be banned across South Australia, following the tragic death of Port Lincoln teenager Paddy Ryan. SA Best is aiming to fast-track the new bill through Parliament.
He was Port Lincoln's aspiring athlete, loved by the community and his family, but Paddy Ryan's life was tragically cut short at a horror house party back in February.
They chose to inhale gas from the gas bottle just as a lark sort of thing, and had catastrophic consequences for Paddy.
Within minutes, Paddy's heart stopped. The 16-year-old collapsed. His friends quickly rang paramedics.
The ambulance was there really quick, but they spent 40 minutes trying to revive him, and no go, the heart wouldn't fire, so yeah.
Since the tragic loss, Adrian has raised awareness of the danger of inhaling gas, also known as huffing. SA Best now lobbying for mandated health warnings on LPG products.
The requirements in the bill make it an offence to provide an LPG cylinder bottle without one of these warning labels on there.
SA Best says the legislation would help improve safety. There's also proposals to change the valve, odour and taste of the gas.
And if it just stops one kid, one young person, whoever it is, in their tracks and causes them to reflect on whether this is something that they should be doing, that could be a potentially life-saving outcome.
Gives these guys an option not to do it, or like if they're in a group, a couple of them to have some sense and say, look, we shouldn't be doing this.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Still to come tonight, South Australian councils behaving badly, the target of new legislation. And the Pro Heart Art Prize reveals its finalists. Welcome back. New local government reforms for South Australia have been introduced to State Parliament to crack down on bad council behaviour. The bill also providing rate relief, something Port Augusta Council says they've already established.
Local councils going under the microscope. The South Australian Government looking to improve accountability and transparency of the third tier of government. Port Augusta City Council backing the overhaul.
To make sure the councils are controlled and they've got a good mannerism and they look after their community. So I see no issue with that, and I'm sure the government, state government and federal government will follow suit and do the same thing.
Lowering costs and transparent representation are key areas being revamped. In a major change, salary bands will also be introduced for all council CEOs.
The other added bonus is with the CEO wages, things like that, there'll be a board that's structured to do that. And they'll make the decision on the wages, so that takes that pressure off the elected body.
Independent and skilled audits will also be implemented.
Just to expose where we're not doing things that need to be done a certain way or a manner, and it just gives us that opportunity to improve.
The Mayor says he's confident local council is already open with ratepayers.
I believe we've had about 4 in the last 2 terms of external audits done, which have provided us information where we need to approve, and some will be very positive.
The local government minister and chair of the Local Government Association were contacted for comment. Laura Milovanovic, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Whyala's new public high school is taking shape, with work continuing on the site. Earthworks are making progress, with the Education Minister saying construction is already ahead of schedule.
A busy working site tackling a once-in-a-lifetime project. The construction company overseeing the development pleased with the progress made.
We're currently substantially through the earthworks associated with the buildings. We have had our services guys commencing grounds.
We're really pleased that the new school in Whyala, the building, is running ahead of schedule at the moment. The foundations are well on the path to being laid. Heavy structures will be going up soon.
Concrete is starting on site this week, working on footings for the new school's buildings.
Our next major project milestone is the installation of structural steel, which commences from early August.
650 tonnes of steel will come from the Whyala Steelworks, contributing to the city's economy.
It will be very good for our community, and it's good to see local contractors and suppliers from both Whyala and the region being used on the site.
Everyone's working as they should, and it's a good team atmosphere on site at the moment.
Digging the pathway for better education, the school aims to open in 2022. Each classroom will have state-of-the-art facilities and technology, providing local students with a modern learning experience.
This is going to be a spectacular learning environment for the students and the young people in Whyala, and it's no less than they deserve.
Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
After a record number of entries, judges have listed 23 finalists for this year's Pro Heart Outback Art Prize. The Far West region well represented, with 4 local artists in contention for first prize.
It's an art competition that continues to put Broken Hill and the Far West in the spotlight.
We ended up with 474 entries for the 2020 Pro Hard Outback Art Prize, which again was another record breaker by nearly 100 entries.
The first round of judging for the Art Prize has been conducted, the panel whittling down the 474 submissions to just 23, a process carried out through an online format.
It was myself and the judge Susie Muddyman OAM, the director of Tweed Regional Gallery, and 3 members of our Art Gallery Advisory Committee as well.
Of the remaining 23, the Far West region is well represented, with 4 artists in the running for the $20,000 prize. 3 are from Broken Hill and 1 is from Wilcannia. The Silver City's Anne Evers says it's an honour to make it this far.
It's always really exciting to be accepted into an art competition as a finalist. So I was thrilled.
The artists will now send their works to the gallery for the finalist exhibition. It's unclear at this time if an opening night will be held.
We're potentially looking at doing an online opening where we'll announce on the evening of the 4th of September online the winner.
Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us. A Whyalla prostate cancer patient urging men to get checked. And the Pitchy Ritchie Railway prepares to raid once again. Men's Health Week is underway, focusing on encouraging Australian males to pay attention to their well-being. A Whyalla local is urging men to get checked for prostate cancer, saying early detection is key to survival.
Have the conversation. It's an important message this men's health advocate says is needed to help men understand potential health risks.
Men typically don't talk about themselves, and it's important, I think, to go out, make it readily available to people to say, look, you know, come and find out about your health.
Having prostate cancer himself, he says early detection saved his life.
Do it early. If you're at all worried, make sure you can only manage your own medical journey.
SA Health says the week is a timely reminder for men of all ages to visit their GP for a health check.
Seek advice is very important so you can recognise a lot of conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, heart disease and some of the cancers like prostate cancers early.
Mental health also an important issue. INAT conducting a 24/7 project across the Whyalla community.
And that's 24 talks in 7 days across the community in sporting clubs, businesses, other services and schools. There's a huge need for men's health in Whyalla and support networks.
If you or someone you know needs help, reach out to INAT online or call Lifeline. Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Quorn's Pitchy Ritchie Railway ground to a halt in March as coronavirus forced its cancellation for the first time in 4 decades. They'll be back on track later this month, just in time for the school holidays. Laura Milovanovic has more.
It's one of just 2 steam railways left operating in South Australia, and from July 4th they'll be back on the track. Organisers deciding this week to resume services. Passengers will be able to reboard in a fortnight on the first Saturday of the school holidays. It'll be their first service since March.
It's been quite devastating really to shut down, but however it's had to happen and the rest of the world has had to comply as well.
They're now hoping to see a mix of new and familiar faces. It'll also breathe new life into the Flinders Ranges tourism with 10,500 tourists riding the service last year.
It's wonderful that they're back up, able to get up and running again in time for the school holidays.
And they're continuing to expand their volunteer base to keep the wheels turning.
Whether it's maintenance, whether it's operation of the locomotives, whether it's train staff on the day, are all volunteers. There is no paid people in the railway at all.
During the school holidays, 3 trains will run from Port Augusta and 7 from Quorn. More information on scheduling and ticketing can be found online.
Submissions have now closed, but voting is open for this year's Mulka Art Prize. Residents around the region can vote for their favourite art pieces in this year's virtual exhibition. 45 entries have been submitted, including traditional paintings, photography, carvings and jewellery. Winners will be announced during NAIDOC week. Stay with us after the break. We check what fish are biting in the Gulf, and we'll have the weather details with Britt. Hello again. Time to check what fish are biting in the Spencer Gulf this weekend. Here's our fishing experts with their tips.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, the big news at the moment, the whales are up. There's a couple of humpback whales up on Sunday. Lots and lots of squid around, lots of real big ones as well. People are bagging out left, right and centre, so just check the restrictions on those. King George whiting over in the Flinders Channel, down on the bottom end, and if they're at the bottom end of the Flinders, you'd say sort of Chinlands Creek and Yatla as well, and they've been big kidney slappers as well. There's some snook around the middle banks, off Letty Spit Stick and also the number 9 bank, and also some tommies and garfish up around the trees and that during the night. So if you want to get out in these nice calm nights and do a bit of dabbing, you're sure to pick up some nice garfish and also probably a couple of squid there too. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Welcome another week around the Gulf fishing tips. I can't believe last weekend, so cold. I don't know if anybody braved the conditions to get out, you would have been rewarded with some King George whiting for sure. So over at the Eastern Shoal, Checker Buoy area, still got large numbers of squid, and they've still been happening all for the last 3 months, I reckon, that we're really picking up those fellas. One of the tips that I need to talk about is the yellowfin whiting. We've been finding those from Port Broughton right through to Barrows Beach. I know it's pretty cold, but if you want to have a shot at wading out, if you don't have a boat, up to your knees in water and casting in for the yellowfin whiting, you'll still get a few of those around the place. Have a shot at that. That's all we've got this week. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, it seems like the good windows of weather are happening midweek at the moment. Some of the better reports of whiting have been around Carcass Rock and also down around Taylor's Landing. Closer to home there have been some whiting caught land based around Murray's Point and also on the rocks down towards Tulka. Squid reports have been fairly good when the boats have been able to get out. Over at Coffin Bay there's been some good reports of whiting around the oyster rats and also some salmon trout in the same area. There have been some nice gummy sharks caught at night in the bay system. And down on Gunya Beach, there's been some salmon up to around about 3 kilos. Well, that's it for this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
Taking a look at Thursday finance, and the market finished the day in the red. Elders fell nearly 2%, BHP dropped by just over 1%, while CSL fell slightly. There was some positivity. Bendigo Bank and Clean Seas were both marginally up. Centrex was unchanged. And the ASX 200 and All Ordinaries both dropped by 0.9% by the close of trade. And with a look at what's happening in the weather, here's Britt.
Thanks, John, and good evening. We saw sunny skies across the region today with a high of 21 degrees recorded at Port Augusta. Whyalla and Woodna both reached 20. Port Lincoln, Port Pirie, Kadina and Cleve all got to 19 degrees. Coffin Bay 18 today, Broken Hill 17, Clare 16. From the satellite, mostly clear skies under a ridge of high pressure. Cloud moving in from the west with a trough and associated cold front will cause showers to develop overnight. Which brings us to tomorrow. On the waters, northerly winds at 10 to 15 knots with seas up to 2 metres. Swells south to southwesterly at 1 to 2 metres. Showers expected at Port Lincoln tomorrow with a possible thunderstorm in the afternoon or evening, looking at a top of 18 degrees. Cleve, a shower or two reaching 17. Woodna, showers and 19. Showers on the way at Whyalla, most likely in the morning. Otherwise partly cloudy with a high of 20 degrees. Port Augusta, partly cloudy, looking to reach a top of 21. Kadina, showers with winds easing, a top of 17 degrees. Winds easing at Port Pirie with a shower or two, looking at a top of 19. Clare, showers and 16. Broken Hill, sunny with a top of 22 degrees. Looking ahead to the weekend now with showers over most parts on Saturday, but it is expected to remain dry about the Eastern Eyre Peninsula and Broken Hill, both with fine and partly cloudy conditions on the forecast. Maximum temps sitting in the mid-teens. Looking ahead to Sunday, much the same, with showers expected across the Spencer Gulf region. Broken Hill remaining dry, partly cloudy there. Top temperatures ranging between 14 and 17 degrees. And finally to Monday, with showers again over the Spencer Gulf. Broken Hill looking partly cloudy. And John, that's the weather.
Thanks, Britt. And that's your local news this Thursday evening. Thanks for your company. I'll have updates later, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 6:30 on 7/2. Until then, have a great evening. Good night.